Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. Today's reading is all around what powerful planetary energies do you most embody and how do they empower you? So we're really looking at a kind of baseline astrological reading here. It doesn't necessarily have to align with your chart, but you may choose your pile because of something you know about your chart and how, say, some of these potential planetary energies operate. But there will be other planetary or astrological information as we go through this that can also add more to the choices that are here. But the idea is I wanted to choose to start with different sort of planets that are a little bit more in the outer galaxy, so to speak, ones that are more often than not sort of slower moving, very powerful, very important to what we manifest, how we transform, what we receive spiritually, what we structure in that sort of order. Because I really want to see with this and connecting it to mythology and those sort of things as well too, what's almost like the godlike energy in you. And I don't want to over speak that, but I do want to emphasize that we all carry within us a kind of spiritual spine and probably an alliance or a connection to those sorts of energies. And knowing that about ourselves can make us much more powerful. So I'll do the poll choice in just a minute. I'm going to take the advice of a friend not to go into too much detail about what the readings are going to do, so that's a bit of a mystery as we all go through it, but that's in a very broad term what it's going to look at. The other thing I want to note is that I had some advice about how to maybe make the sound quality better on videos. So I've put something else in, or I've changed some of the sort of settings around my microphone. So I'd be really interested to know if people notice a difference, if this helps, because if so, I'll keep doing it this way. And I do actually have quite a few videos already filmed and scheduled for the next couple of months and so forth. So it may take a while for it to be consistently like this, but if this is better, if this is a better sound experience for you and you have a moment to let me know in the comments, I'd appreciate knowing it. So without further ado, let's have a talk about the pile choice. So as always, I will put down the numbers for those that like to choose by numbers. As I said, I deliberately chose some planetary energies that are, I think, very powerful, often slow moving, as I say, very sort of transformative in one form or another, to hopefully help with the choice. But there will be other elements that we look at to look at what the real planetary energy is, mythology energies, those sort of things that you're embodying and how to use them best. So this is only sort of the entry point in and may not turn out to be the dominant energy of all of it. It just depends what other cards come up, because I have intuitively pulled some. I don't know what they are at this point. So for pile number 1, we have Jupiter. For pile number 2, we have Pluto. For pile number 3, we have Neptune. And for pile number 4, we have Saturn. So if you've ever really identified with those sort of energies, the sort of like abundance, the transformation, as I said, the sort of spiritual, or the sort of structured, the powers of the world type of energy, that may be something that helps you choose. But otherwise it may be the image, it may be the number. If you want to go to more than one, by all means do that. There may be more than one sort of pattern of planetary energies that you embody to truly be your strongest and most empowered self. But when you know which one or ones you want to go to, as always, the timestamps are in the description box below, and I'll see you in your reading. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. So as I said, I have some other cards from the deck that looks at sort of both numerological and astrological energy, and then also some cards that connect to potentially starseed or ancient mythology and ancient knowledge, and then Greek mythology, because to me it seems like I can see how best one or more planets are what you embody. And I think for you it is clearly Jupiter. So Jupiter was what drew you here, or something else drew you here for this to be a reading. But either way, Jupiter is the planet of abundance. It's the planet of beneficence. It's a planet of expansion, expanding consciousness, expanding material outcomes and so forth. It's a planet of kindness, a planet of caring for others, and you have very much a sense of community here, with 6 as a number that you have there, building within a community in a way that is wise and a bit transpersonal. It's not about You are not all about just making yourself abundant, I guess is the first thing I would say. Your Jupiter energy is about sharing with others. It's about sharing with the community. You may well, as a result of that, become abundant in the sort of senses that we think about. But it is interesting that if you, say, have starseed connections, which you may well with two different intergalactic tribes in a sense, or species coming up here, or even if you don't, the energies of these are very much, again, about community. The Syrians, in fact, one of the things that they did at this particular race of the Syrians were connected to shamanism and the Dogon shamans in particular, and were meant to have come to Earth and given wisdom, information, very technological and architectural information. So I think connecting with the Aquarian energy there. But their main message to mankind was that we had fallen from grace, effectively. We had fallen in terms of consciousness level because of materialism and greed. This is why I'm saying with the vegans that are peaceful and want to nourish the earth, your Jupiter is about wisdom, it is about sharing, it is about abundance for all, not just for self. You also have, covering this and connecting, I think, with Aquarius, Metis as one of the Greek mythology cards for you. And this to me, I mean, it was possible, and it may be for some readings that the gods that come up may literally align to planets. But in this case, Metis was swallowed by Zeus because she was so wise, so the wisdom, and she's actually the mother of Athena. It's why there is the story of Athena springing fully formed from Zeus's forehead, so to speak, because Metis, the mother, was within. So there is a deep wisdom within you. And it is interesting because Jupiter, if there was a corollary to a Greek myth, it would be Jupiter/Zeus. So there is definitely a sense, I think, here of a very good internal balance of divine masculine and divine feminine in what you do. This is part of what you bring, part of how you embody the abundance and the manifestation of Jupiter. And you have many gifts with Perseus to be able to do it, including being able to deal with lower level consciousness if it is necessary, or with the more sort of frightening sort of aspects of life. You can bring the gifts and the abundance coming in on that level. But as I say, with Aquarius, you're very future focused too, which I think very much connects to the Syrian energy, bringing in ideas and concepts and ways of doing things that's ahead of your time. Could be very scientific, AI, something like that. If not, it's in some different sort of way of looking at the community and energies around all of that in a different way that brings in Jupiter. Jupiter is also about leadership. So because it is effectively Jupiter, Zeus, as I say, in terms of the pantheon. So you are meant to lead. You are meant to lead in some form of community, some form of organisation, some form of group. I do think for many of it, it's spiritual or scientific or some combination of both. But as I say, the real thing is bringing in the true abundance by understanding that is best done through sharing and through not being about the material outcomes, but being about the sort of more transpersonal, bigger outcomes, which, as I say, ironically actually often brings in the energy of abundance. So I think that you are likely to be seen by some as lucky or able to bring in abundance. We are going to have a look at how the external world reacts to your inner Jupiter here. So that will be interesting to see, because I suspect that we will see some really strong positive connections and following your leadership, and maybe sometimes some jealousy, because I do think you may be seen as things coming easily to you. It's not true. You have the gifts, you have the wisdom, and you have the balance that's necessary, but I think not everybody is going to see that. They may feel that you're privileged, or that, as I say, you're lucky in some way. But Jupiter is your sort of jewel in the crown, and if you know your chart, it would be interesting to see what planets aspect it, what house it is in, and so forth. This is a very key part of your personality and what you're meant to be embodying for your greatest power within this world. So let's get a little bit more detail on it with tarot. So I want to firstly have a look at how this energy is most manifesting in your life. How is your inner Jupiter most manifesting for you? Then we can see what is you are fulfilling with it, like what are you really working with now, and then also what might you be denying, what might you not be seeing or not using yet. So let's see firstly, how is your inner Jupiter playing out in your life at the moment, pile one. Okay, so firstly, it's very interesting. We have Judgment reversed, and then we have the Two of Swords sort of like flanking this set of cards, because it says to me that part of the way that Jupiter is operating for you is that you are not too quick to judgment of others. You are not too quick to a decision. You're also, with the Six of Wands reversed, not someone who operates from ego. So as I say, this sort of abundance and so forth is not about you. It's not all, I want to have $1 million in my bank account and I want to be on the cover of, Time magazine or something. It's not that energy around you. And there's nothing wrong with either of those things, by the way. But for you, that's not the primary force. It's more around bringing in new there's something very much about the Aquarian energy and the Syrian energy here, bringing in new ways of looking at things, new approaches to things. If you worked in a political environment, it may be a different political philosophy, for instance. If it's in an organization, it might be sort of building up something pretty much from scratch, sort of like the Greenfields type of organisations that work to bring in something and to see how it can turn a profit. And you're definitely connected with other people. With the Nine of Pentacles reversed, you do not want to do this alone. The irony is that I think that most of you with Jupiter there are likely to make enough money and so forth in life to be the self-made person and operate alone, but that's not where you're coming from. And I think that you are looking at connections with people, community and so forth, and how to share not only resources but share the credit for things. This is why the wisdom of Jupiter is stopping you from being too judgmental. You would be very strongly supportive of things like diversity and inclusion and all of those sorts of energies. You would see why that mattered, what that was going to do for the future of an endeavor. It wouldn't just be because it's a warm inner glow to feel it, though certainly Jupiter has its fair share of warm inner glow, but it's not just about that for you. You see the wisdom of it, you understand spiritually, and I think on a very practical level that none of us operate alone. It interests me because for Jupiter, as I say, of all the planets, it's probably the one that people would most sort of think is the lucky, it's the benefic, it's the expansion, it's the abundance. And I think a lot of people think of it in those terms around bringing in your manifestation and all of that kind of thing. I just don't think you think of it that way. I think you would think of it more about generosity, about the sharing of energy, about the sharing of results and so forth. And because of that, that's why it's likely to work. It's this wisdom. And it's also in service of some greater evolution. You don't want the higher order things that you're trying to do within a group to be stopped by judging and cliques and even you going just for you. You know that this is for everybody. So I think that you're using it on a very high order, a really spiritually high order, which is excellent. So let's see how you can fulfill it best. And as I say, then we might look to see if there's any level on which you deny it within yourself. So how do you best fulfill your inner Jupiter, pile one? Well, again, say with the Five of Pentacles reversed, there is definitely a sense of reaching out to others. It is possible for some of you, with both of those cards coming up, that right at the moment you feel a little bit alone, that you don't feel like you've found your connection and so forth. So part of your journey with the Fool might be to find that. Within your inner Jupiter needs your community, your group of people, your soul family, whatever it is. So I think part of manifesting it is deciding that it can't all be done on your own and so forth, even though you have a very different way of looking at things than most people. But it's having that wisdom and that balance to be able to bring that sort of energy in, and you're very, very emotionally resonant, very, very emotionally connected. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the people here, if you know your chart, that there's a very strong connection between your Jupiter and a good one with your moon, potentially your Venus, potentially your Neptune, the sort of things that we associate with emotional maturity. So this sort of like sense of generosity and so forth with the King of Cups, I feel like that the way that you're most using it at the moment is about bringing different ways of bringing people together, maybe bringing people into your life in a way that is emotionally mature and that unsticks sort of emotional blockages in some way. Some of you may literally do it in some sort of therapeutic work or something like that, but it doesn't have to be that. I also got a lot of a sense of music as I put this down. So some of you may be musical artists, or music may be a way that you connect with other people and sort of, as I say, bring a kind of very quick aha moment around what is emotionally needed and what could sort of sort through any differences and so forth, and sort through any kind of issues around the individual ego and the collective outcome as well. So there's something there, but a lot of your Jupiter is processed, I think, through emotional resonance, through your emotional maturity. Doesn't surprise me. With the other cards there, it felt very much like a very mature, sensible way of using the energy. But given that, is there anything that you deny in yourself around the Jupiter? So yes, and I suspect this is going to be the case for everybody. You don't fully know yet who you are. You're meant to be the King of Cups, the Jupiter of Cups, you know, the Zeus of Cups. Excuse me. You're meant to be at that level, but you're at this point still thinking that you're learning about whatever this is. You really are a visionary, and you really are on the right track emotionally, and you're the grown up in the room emotionally around the people that you're with, but you're not fully believing that yet. You're still following a structure, whether it's a spiritual belief system, whether it's an organization where you've got a manager and so forth, whether it's parental authority, whether it's school and education. There's a degree to which you haven't fully understood who you are. And so you have the different views and the new views, but you're kind of still deferring to what is the established in some way. This new energy, it's there, it's waiting to come out. And this is the Aquarian thing. This is where the mind comes in. This is where the transpersonal energy comes in to really unlock that emotional maturity. You haven't done that yet. You're a little bit worried about who you're going to upset. And it's interesting that in the first row we had that kind of sense of you really don't want to get in an ego battle with people. That's not what it's about for you, but it may be that there is a lot of ego around you and a lot of judgment around you that others are doing. I think people who are in positions of authority or power or have established themselves in some way. So I think most of you that have come here, you are meant to be at the Jupiter level, and you will be, but you don't fully realize that about yourself yet. So that's probably why you were drawn to come to this reading. So one of the reasons that we sometimes don't realize it, and I do think this is the case here, is because of other people, because of what is coming towards us externally. And people will be unconsciously responding to your Jupiter sort of energy. And as I say, some may be jealous of you, some may want to undermine, your sense of progress. Others will like you and others will want to connect with you. I'm not meaning to sort of say it's all difficult, but I do think that there is something where you're going to uproot an established system, established power, established way of doing things, an established group. And it's very interesting again with Jupiter, because if you think about Jupiter/Zeus, the story of the ascension of Jupiter to the throne was in the wake of his father Kronos, or Saturn. And the concept there was that his father used to eat all the children because he'd had a prophecy that said that he was going to be usurped by one of his children. And then the wife of Saturn said, no, this is not going to occur, Rhea. She said no, and she put Jupiter/Zeus in swaddling, put him aside, and then put a rock in swaddling clothes, and Kronos swallowed that. So that meant that Jupiter was safe to eventually ascend. So there's something in that for you. There's something in whatever you want to do in your world. You will probably need to rise above the established, and you're not yet confident to do it, but you're actually much more embodying it than you're thinking you are. So let's have a look at what you are going to deal with external world. So I'm looking firstly at some energies of archetypes or personal characteristics of people that could either be a support for you or could be a challenge. Then we're going to have a look at career energy and love energy also, for how that may play out in terms of energies coming towards you in response to your inner Jupiter. So let's look at archetypes and personality characteristics first. So I've got addict, okay. Vampire, wow, okay. Creator. All right, so your beneficent energy and your sense of being able to create things and your sense of what is new, and I think also the what people will pick up unconsciously around you about the power and the sort of destiny of what you're meant to do does attract some people who want to be hangers on. You may also attract people who get a bit addicted to your energy or addicted to what you can give to them. You may also work in areas where dysfunctional relationships are part of it, because there definitely is that sense that you have that emotional maturity. So you may be dealing with a lot of lower vibrational energies around you, again picking up the Syrian sort of element where you see what needs to be done. But there are creative energies around you as well. In whatever way this plays out, this could also play out in love relationships. It'll be interesting to see what the love energy is coming to you. You may draw a lot of people who see you as someone who is almost a bit of a food source because of the very positive, expansive energy around you and because of your creative fire. But you will also come across other creative people. And I think you'll eventually have a community of people where everybody is bringing something to the table. It's not just you. And that will actually embody what it is that you're trying to do, as opposed to the old hierarchy, which feels very traditional, feels very power oriented. This is going to be much more about something collaborative and creative. So you are going to bring in good energy, but you're also going to bring in, as I say, kind of vampiric, kind of addicted, kind of troubled energy that you are going to be trying to help, I think. So let's see some other characteristics around the external world people that your inner Jupiter are drawing towards you. Got Ox and Orange. So there's the creative again. It's definitely saying don't worry too much. It's not all going to be difficult and tricky. There will definitely be sort of creative, enthusiastic people who really want to build something new with you. They may or may not be born in the year of the Ox. It may also be that some of these more trying and lower vibrational energies come from that year as well too. But the Ox itself actually has a lot of really good qualities. The Ox year is diligent, gentle, hardworking, reliable, but they can be a bit materialistic and they can be a bit stubborn. So I almost feel as though that's picking up more the sort of like the existing power base. This feels like people who want your help. This feels like people who will collaborate with you. I feel like the Ox energy, it's not bad energy, but it's established, it's traditional, it likes material outcomes and so forth. And that may be the thing that you're trying to break through with the more creative energy. Got one other deck that I want to have a look at for similar sort of information about the sort of people that could be around you. Confident, green thumb, dark complexion. That could be like literally people that are around you that you know, that you could identify at this point, that could, I think, more likely to fall because of where it's fallen into the creative, sort of collaborative sort of area. Green thumb is interesting with the vegan energy. There is sort of something about caring about the environment and so forth that is connected to this, whether literally or whether it's sort of tangentially or whether it's that is part of how some of these people create. They create on a very natural level that you really align to. People who are confident. This is all this energy, I feel. I feel like confident people are the people who will collaborate with someone like you. Someone who is not confident will just be jealous, to be honest. They won't be able to deal with it. And if they're really stuck in their ways and they don't want to move, they'll find that difficult as well. But I think you are going to draw, with your sort of expansive energy, some really creative and confident people towards you. You're just going to have to deal with that. There will also be some lower vibrational energy around that you need to watch out for, and that you are at some point going to come up against an established hierarchy, something like that, that I think you'll have your tribe with you, or you'll draw your tribe to you as a result of standing up to this. But it's just a process now of you actually understanding the inner Jupiter within you. So let's have a look at how this might manifest externally around career and finance. And then we'll look around love. So this is, again, is energy coming towards you, things to be aware of that are in response to the fact that you embody this Jupiterian energy so strongly. So around career and finance. Voice. Teacher. That's interesting. Reconsider a decision. Designer. Okay. I think that you will have people who want you to teach and bring voice to what you do, show what your methodology is and so forth. I think that, and there will be maybe people also that want to come and talk to you and teach you. And it may be some of this traditional stuff where you need to sort of step away from it and say, no, that's not what I'm going to do. Or if I'm going to voice something, it's going to be what I really want to voice. It's like reconsider a decision. There's something here. I think it's partly about reconsidering where you stand with some of these people, like whether you have to listen to them as a teacher, listen to their voice all the time. You're meant to design, and you will draw, the more that you design your future in some way, the more you're going to draw the right sort of energy in career-wise, vocation-wise. As I say, you may eventually give voice to what you do and teach others, but there's something that you're doing right now that is lesser than what you could do with that Knight of Cups compared to the King of Cups. So I think that in the material world at the moment, around career, study, vocation, it's time to really think about moving from the voice of the teacher and the old to what you design yourself. Let's have a look at love energy from the external world around you. True love reversed, balance reversed, romance reversed. Okay, so this may be picking up this addict vampire energy. It does look to me like one of the things that's going to happen with you is that people will be drawn to you and maybe get a bit obsessed. They may think you're the true love, you're how you bring balance in. Romance with you is what it's all about. I think you're going to draw that energy and you're going to have to be aware of it. You could, in fact, be dealing with this right now. I don't think it means to say that you could never have true love or balance or whatever. I think it's just saying that people will romanticize you. People will want you to sort out their issues for them. People will project on you a lot. And this, as I say, because of the very warm emotional maturity about what you do. So the external world may be a bit tricky. I often say, actually, that really charismatic people can have quite weird relationship histories because people do project a lot on them. I think that you are charismatic, but in an interesting way. I think you're charismatic in a very emotional way. A lot of people are charismatic that they sort of like seem, though you could very well with the way that you speak be very charismatic. But a lot of charismatic people, it's sort of more flashy and so forth. For you, it's not really that. It's like a kind of an opening warmth and a sense of what is benefic. And that draws a lot of people in, but it is that vampiric energy. So you are going to need to be aware of that and balance that. So let's look at what you can do spiritually, spiritual sort of and magic energy around you to get the best out of embodying your inner Jupiter, pile one. Falling awake. When a situation falls apart, your darkest hour becomes the dawn of your awakening. There's going to be something, I would say, where there's almost a crisis of confidence, or there's a point where you really have to part ways with those that are telling you what to do. You need to reconsider what you're doing. But that is actually you waking up to who you are. Be aware at that point. That's when you're ready to step into your Jupiter power. And awakened masculine, self-responsibility buckles you firmly into the driver's seat of your own life's direction. Yes, it's when you move into the creative side, when you move into who you really are, that King of Cups. You don't have to be a man for this. It doesn't matter what you identify with, any of that. It's the masculine energy. It's going forward and creating something in the world. It's the Jupiter energy, because Jupiter, Zeus, is a masculine deity. So there is that sense of starting your own path, that fool energy. You start to go into the power of it. But it's like you have a falling out on some level, or a disillusionment almost, before you do that. Let's see what spiritual gifts or options may help you, pile one. Akashic Records. Facebook platform. Yeah, you're meant to have your voice out there, not your teacher's voice. And clear alliance, clear smelling. Okay, so you certainly have a sense of where you fit within karma. You have a sense of the longer term future and past energies. This is this Aquarian sort of thing. You can see a bigger scope, and you're meant to get your message out there, not the established message. Clear smelling is interesting. That may suggest mediumship and other sort of abilities like that. It often turns up in things like that. It's where we smell rose perfume because our past loved one used to wear it, that kind of thing. But certainly pay attention to smells, pay attention to those that evoke memories as well, because there may be something that evokes a memory that is much deeper than even just your current life with the Akashic records there. We'll also get a magic and mediums card to see what magic you can use around your inner Jupiter. Listen. That's interesting. Voice, teacher, reconsider a decision. Listen. Your capacity to hear what's really going on, what's in that emotional resonance. That's what you've got to sort of really focus in on, to listen to what's coming through, because out of that, the new will come and the right people will come. But you will also probably have a bit of an early warning about those that are going to get a bit obsessed with you. You'll also know when it's time to leave the past behind and go into the new. Okay, so to finish off pile 1, this is pretty exciting. Like, Jupiter is a wonderful energy to embody. I'm just going to get a couple of cards from your higher self, just in terms of advice for you going forward as you claim your inner Jupiter. Have the courage to be free. Know that freedom begins where desire ends. You know that. This is the point. You understand that abundance is not about, having as I say, $1 million in the bank. It's about the sharing of resources. It's about something that has a broader reach than just you. But you need to be free of something, some other way of, maybe you've been in a family that's very, very material, for instance, or in a career that's very, very material. And rise above the dark days of life. Do not fight them, but have faith that the light will always return. This is whatever this is. For the people coming to this reading, you are meant to own your inner Jupiter. You are meant to own your inner luck and abundance. But the only way you can do it is by rising to it, much in the same way as Jupiter/Zeus had to rise to the throne. So there's that energy, and the only thing that's really going to trigger you to understand how much further along you are than you think at the moment is a disillusionment or something that you need to reconsider around career, study, something like that. But listen to your inner knowing, listen to what you're hearing around you. You have a very, very finely attuned radar. Pay attention to that and you can't go wrong. So I hope that you enjoyed the reading, pile 1. I hope it resonates for you, and if so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share about in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 2, to your reading. So we have Pluto, and that of the 3 astrology or numerology cards was the only one that was a planet. So it very much underlines that Pluto is the key energy for you, the one that you're embodying. And it certainly is reflected with some of the rest of this. So Pluto, of course, is the great transformer and the great going to the depths. Pluto literally rules the underworld. It's shamanic, it's Persephone's journey, it's all of those sort of things. It's shadow work, it's change, it's transformation, all of that kind of thing. I wouldn't be surprised if quite a few of you have Scorpio strongly, when we also have fixed. I think it may be that particular fixed sign that is connected to this for you. But what this is telling me is that you are someone, your Plutonian energy is to be able to go into the depths, into the secrets, and bring people out of being stuck in some way, and being able to be for a period of time in that moment of change without being afraid. And why I say this is that Pluto, as I say, is the god, and is the planetary energy of change and transformation, depth work, shadow work. Fixed is where I think the energy, Pluto is working on the energy of fixed things, fixed opinions, fixed belief systems, whatever that might be. And then we have void, of course, and that is where it's a moon cycle, and it's where things are not clear. So I feel like this is helping people to go through the transformation process and helping yourself. Like, this is something you do yourself as well, but I think that this is something that you were sort of born to embody as a power to help others, to be able to be uncertain and allow things to come into being and to come back onto course when the transformation is over. Because we have Heracles here, which is a protective influence over humanity. So there is definitely a sense here where you are very protective of others. We have the Arcturians. You may have starseed sort of connections with the 2 intergalactic races here. But even if you don't, the Arcturians are very peace-loving, and they are able to transmute third dimensional energy, alchemize it in some way. So this is a protective energy, again, to help people go through almost an alchemical or shamanic change process. And you do it really behind the scenes in some way, because the Agathans like to live under the earth. They don't really like to come out and show themselves too often. We also have Crusa here, which is secrets. I think that many of you could work or be around a lot of power, a lot, whether it's spiritual, whether it's sort of academic, whether it's political, whether it's sort of power coming from money and sort of major families and that kind of thing. I think there's something where you're almost like an undercover agent who's come in to help move things along, fixed sort of ideologies, stuck energy, that kind of thing. And so you embody the transformation. I suspect that some of you literally embody transformation in some way. Some of you may have decided to really change, your political views from that of your family, your gender identity. There could be anything. I think there's a phoenix-like energy to you anyway. You embody what you're talking about. You show that it's possible. You make people less afraid. It's a very interesting energy, because Pluto could be seen as a little bit confronting and a little bit scary, and I think on time you probably do seem that way to people. But I also think that they feel like, if I'm going to be going into the unknown, this is the person I want to do it with. If we have to explore something very new, some of you may explore sort of star systems, that kind of thing, what AI can do, anything like that, but where it's not known, where it's not clear, where the direction isn't clear yet, and it's making people feel comfortable to be in that space. Because what tends to stop transformation is the minute it starts getting uncomfortable, people revert back to the fixed. You seem to be here, your energy seems to be here, and your true power is for yourself and for others, being able to exist in ambiguity, exist in secrets, protect others, transmute and alchemize that energy. So I do think you're here to do something very powerful, but it's kind of behind the scenes on some level. So let's have a look and see with the tarot about how does this energy manifest in your life? How is your Plutonian energy really coming to the fore? For many of you, I think this is going to play out around relationships in some way, maybe love relationships. Many of you may have things like divine counterparts, that kind of energy, transmuting and alchemizing that energy with the twins or the lovers reversed. But for others, it is like there's karmic sort of things around relationships. With the Fool reverse here, I think it's sort of saying this isn't something new. You've done this before. You've embodied Pluto before, and you're here again to do it. And you really learnt last time. I suspect maybe in a prior life, or maybe even earlier in your life. It could be even literally in this life, when you tried to be this transformative energy, people maybe ran away from it, or you were held back by very strong sort of like emotional reactions and wanting to sort of stay stuck. So you've learned how to take something through the cycle, the alchemical cycle, to make the choice and so forth. But you also stand very much alone in it. You could do it as some sort of profession where it's your own business or something like that. It's a very much your own system and so forth. But you are okay with, if you have to be alone to do this, to go through whatever transformations you've gone through yourself, to disconnect from relationships that are stuck in old patterns that are not going to shift. You will stand on your own if necessary. And in a way, by embodying that, you're embodying the power of Pluto to go through the change, to do it without worrying too much about the consequences. And you've done it before. I get this sort of sense almost of an evolving butterfly, caterpillar sort of cycle for you. It's like to go to each level sort of evolution and so forth, spiritually and on that sort of level, but maybe very literally around how you connect to your body or to your career or to the relationships that you have. But it is a bit of a lonely journey. It doesn't mean you can't be with anybody, but you have to be prepared to make the decisions that suit you, to be really true to the depths of you, rather than like what kind of emotional energy might be coming towards you. Now, we are going to have a look at what sort of other people are around you and how they respond to this Plutonian energy. So it will be interesting to see. But before we get there, I want to see how you best fulfill the energy. And then we'll also ask, how might you be denying it? either consciously or unconsciously. So how do you best fulfill this Plutonian power? Okay. There's some similarities in this actually to another reading. In as much as I feel that this transformative energy is around getting outside of things that are fixed, old sort of hierarchical ways of doing things, old sort of spiritual beliefs, political beliefs, whatever it might be. You are, part of your Plutonian energy is very much to be an iconoclast and to be able to stand in the face of the judgment of others and make quick decisions when it's necessary. To be not so worried. See, I think what can slow people down with decision making is where they are worried I have to have all the information to take the next step. You're comfortable with not knowing exactly how you're going to get somewhere. It's sort of like you will have a sense of what is the light on the hill, and I'm then going to be okay with the fact that there might be 3 or 4 meandering pathways I have to go to get to that. I'm not going to slow down by trying to overplan it. You kind of break the mold on that level and just let it play out. You're also someone who reveals secrets in some way. It could be just to yourself and to the closest people around you. It could be something that you do to shift fixed energy and fixed hierarchies. You could be an investigative journalist, for instance, or something like that. There is something about uncovering that which is secret and having the energy to just keep doing it. Like this is going through this. You have the capacity to keep on when it isn't clear yet and when you're still in the process of uncovering what's going on. On a kind of creative level, this would be sort of someone who, as I say, might have a very broad idea about what they want to end up with, but is happy to iterate with what they're doing as the inspiration comes through. So it depends on what it is, but I do think for many of you, this is about power in the world, the secret, the shadow, and so forth. But you embody this by a great deal of resilience, a capacity to look at the truth, even if it isn't always pleasant, and to move quickly with the information that comes and not to be stuck in almost the propaganda of the world. So let's see how you might deny the Plutonian energy in you, pile 2. So this is really interesting. I think that Pluto is also incredibly powerful in the sense of ruling the underworld. So there is a rulership energy here. And there is a side of you that is destined for that on some level, to be a leader, to be a ruler in some way. And you want to be an honourable one with the King of Swords there. You don't want it to just be sheer force. But you want to have a good team around you. You want to have, good community, all of those sort of things. It is to some degree limiting some of the new that you could bring out of this. It's almost as though you're trying to mediate within yourself at the moment the difference between the fixed energy here and Pluto itself. So to the degree that you deny Pluto, it may be denying in yourself a natural trajectory to a new form of leadership. It's almost like you could see some value in reaching. It's almost like, oh, well, look, I will do all that when I'm in a powerful enough position to do it. I will do it when, I have a sort of law on my side, and when I have the positional power. I'll just, I don't need to do that yet. I don't want to upset the apple cart. I want to enjoy the people that I'm around and all that kind of thing. All of which is probably true. But I think that what you're underestimating is that you're already there. You're actually living it in some way. There's something that you've done in relation to your family, as I say, in relation to your identity, whatever it might be, that already proves that you're comfortable in this space, and that denying it for the more material, worldly, fixed ideas about what leadership is denying some of your own creative energy, because out of Pluto comes the creation. It's like out of that comes chaos, and out of chaos comes creation. So you deny it to some degree to fit in with a more established viewpoint about what it is to be a leader. But you are meant to be a leader, but you're a transformative leader. You are not, if you're a CEO, you're not the sort of CEO that goes into an organization and just maintains it. You go in and you shake it up and you help it through change. And the more that you understand that about yourself and live into Pluto, the more that you'll use these energies rather than denying that transformative energy within yourself and others. So let's have a look at others. Let's have a look at what's other energy may be coming to you. So we're going to look firstly at some archetypes and personal characteristics. This could be people that are very much supportive of your inner Pluto. It could also be people that are in competition with it in some way, or who don't want to move out of what is fixed. So we're just going to look at those energies. Then we're going to look at how this plays out in career and also in love for you. So firstly, some archetypal energy that you will draw to you because you are embodying your inner Pluto. Old soul. Mystic. Oh, this is interesting. Shadow Queen. Okay. All right. You're going to draw to you some I think some very good and positive energies around old souls, people who can see the power that you have there, people who are comfortable with it, people who are mystics. Like, I literally get this sense here of like a kind of a mystic who is an advisor to someone in a position of power, who is dealing with the unknown, dealing with what is not yet clear. So I think that you're going to draw people to you who will be advisors and who understand what you're trying to do. They can see this evolutionary path that you're talking about, but you're also drawing the shadowy end of power as well, and the shadowy end of all kind of personal transformation. So there are going to be some that will be competing with you. There are going to be some that what you're trying to transmute is in fact their power. So that is a potential challenge for you. Let's look at some personal characteristics. Soft, cute, round, short and quiet. And navy, authority. Okay, all right. So I think one's pointing there, the others are pointing here. I think that the sort of people who are going to be spiritually aligned with you and supporting you, there'll be a softness about their energy. You're very Plutonian, so you're very powerful and probably a bit scary. These people are not like that. They are going to be supportive. They're caring, probably very strong water signs, those sorts of energies. But they know what they're doing, and they're a very good support for you. But you are dealing with the authorities of the world as well too. Now, that can sometimes be good with devoted and adaptable and so forth, but I think because it fell with the Shadow Queen, I think it's showing that at some point you are going to be dealing with shifting what the power of authority is in something. And there will be really good advisors for you, and there will also be people who are the fixed that you are trying to shift. So let's see some personal characteristics. Travel and adventure, 20s, skillful. Okay, I'm feeling these are pointing more towards the positive energy. I feel like you might meet some through, travel, adventure, having fun. Like, not everything has to be serious. You're a bit serious. That Plutonian energy and fixed and void, of course. I'm also getting void, of course, in a way. They're about travel just for travel's sake. So you may well meet people, on that sort of side of things that are going to be very connected to what you're trying to do and who are going to get what you're doing. Quite young, potentially. But I think it's paradoxical because they may literally be in their 20s, depending upon how old you are and what the relationship is with them. But the 20s is usually a time where one is exploring who they are. And I feel you may come across people in that stage of their life, but they're a lot older spiritually than they appear. And you will realize that. You will recognize it because of the Plutonian energy in a way that others don't. This is partly why they'll connect with you. And it also connects with the void, of course, because I think they have a lot of wisdom and ancient knowledge that they're bringing in, but they haven't yet sorted out what that means for them. So being around someone like you who is able to go through that transformative change and bring that kind of Plutonian energy out, you are really they're going to help you, but you're really going to help them as well too. You're all skillful in different ways. And so they bring skill and they bring ability, but it's sort of like spiritual skill and ability, which is not to say that you don't have it with that Plutonian energy you would, but it's very sort of crystallized into this sense of transformation, whereas I feel like they're more like the kind of the Argathans who've been like kind of a little bit out of the political world or out of whatever this is, power world sort of, and they come up to the surface to connect with you because they can see the value of that. So that's the sort of energy I think that is coming to you on that level. Let's have a look at how this might play out around career and money, and then also around love for you, this Plutonian, inner Pluto energy that you have. Explorer, that makes sense, absolutely. The Office, success will find you. Planner. Okay. So I think this is talking about kind of almost like the real you, and then also the you that in a sense, also shifts a bit to bring about the success. And why I'm saying that is that the explorer is definitely you, the sort of transformative energy, void of course, travel and adventure, just getting out there and doing it. And you are going to find success. This is why if you have the light on the hill, you can do whatever you need to do it. I think where you compromise, and I think part of this will be about compromise with those more fixed things, is that, whether it's in an office job or program management or something, but there's something where you also pick up the tools of the traditional and the planning tools, and you put it in that kind of language. Because it's almost like if you went into an organization, for instance, and you were talking about transformation, you can't just go, we're going to sort of throw it all up in the air and see where it lands, because, like the executive team and the board will run away. But if you say, we are going to explore these new territories, we're going to look at it, this is our plan and our way to do this in a way that is safe, in a way that we will build and profits won't be affected and success will come in and we'll have good measures. It's sort of like a compromise. Your energy is much more chaotic and transformative, but you've understood that you need to also be in the environment that you're in and understand the language of the environment that you're in. Okay, let's see around love, the sort of like love energy that is around you because of this Plutonian inner Pluto in you, pile 2. Regret reversed. Commitment reversed. Okay. Friendship. All right. So this is not to say that you can't have a love relationship, but I do feel that you will be very much a free agent. This is part of the sort of Pluto void, of course. Someone who is going to be with you in love has got to be a friend first, I think. Someone who's on the pathway, on the exploration, on the travel and adventure with you. And you may not find it easy to commit in a traditional way with that, because you are about transformation. But you don't live with regret. So those relationships that are meant to last and be with you will find their own form. And I think, can easily be romantic as well as friendship. Those that were not right, that were only right for a time and you didn't commit, you're not going to sort of regret it. So I feel like you're very strong on that level. You're able to look into your shadow in a way that others can't. It's just there may be a little bit of an advice here about being aware that not everybody is that comfortable with being on their own if they need to be. Okay, so let's have a look at some spiritual support for you in dealing with your inner Pluto, pile 2. Heart choices. You cannot deceive your own heart when you honour your truth and follow your happiness. So yeah, you'll be okay. I don't feel like you're wandering through a lot of heartbreak, to be honest. I mean, you may have your share, I guess we all do, but I feel like you will be making the right choices, and there's a friendship sort of connection there. You need to follow your heart. It's part of the transformative energy. And home. An exciting change in home or lifestyle brings positive improvements and new energy. So you may be moving out of home, you may be changing where you live. This may be what this transformation is. You may transform a lot in your kind of material circumstances and prove to yourself you can do it, and that then takes you forward. Or it may be that you are needing to come more at home with yourself and be at home with this Plutonian nature and be comfortable with that. Let's have a look at some spiritual gifts that might help you. Meditation teacher, the spiritual arts, light worker. Okay, it doesn't surprise me, light worker, with the intergalactic sort of energies we had at the beginning. There is something about the light, even though you go into the dark, that's really what you do, but you maybe shine a light, a direction, a lamp, like the hermit's lamp, to void, of course, and so forth. So there's definitely something about light working as part of your soul's imprint. It's interesting with the spiritual arts, because this feels to me very much like someone transformative in organisations, but you may also do it through artistic means, maybe through creative means. There are some people who do a lot around shifting the social and political imprint by what they do in terms of art. So there may be something there for you. Also, meditation teacher, this may be you being able to go into the depths. I feel that's more shamanic than anything, if that's the case with Pluto, but you certainly would be able to go to the sort of nether regions of the dimensions in meditation and get in touch with your inner Pluto. Let's see about magic, your magic as well. Intelligence. There you go. See, right at the beginning, it looked like you could, be a private investigator. This is right, remote viewing. This is astral travel. This is really understanding what's going on in the powers of the world. You definitely could do something like that. It's your capacity to do that and really sort of go in and understand what's going on. And as I say, astral travel and so forth, it is part of this. You will uncover secrets. That's going to be part of what you do. But I think with that Plutonian energy, you're able to deal with them and look at them in a way that a lot of people couldn't. And it's very important energy. We do need people who can look at the truth of the world in the face, because there's a lot of propaganda and a lot of even spiritual propaganda around these days that says, you shouldn't pay attention to that, it's low vibrational or whatever. And the reality is we need people like you, because we have to care. We have to care about what's happening, and to care about it, we have to know. So I think it is a very important energy here. You protect others by looking into it, seeing what maybe they find hard to see. Maybe even something prophetic about you, actually, given that. It's very much a prophet's sort of energy. Okay, so to help you, we're just going to ask your higher self for a couple of bits of soul advice, just to get the best out of your inner Pluto and embodying that power, pole 2. So we have the Tree of Wishes is calling your name, an almost forgotten wish will come true. So have a think about what it was that you were trying to do, and it's maybe about you and the transformation. I think it's probably saying that you're on the cusp of a new you, and you're allowed to be what you want to be, and that is part of proving your power, really. And we have the courage to be free. Know that freedom begins where desire ends. That came up for one of the others. So, and there is a little bit of a connection between these two. Maybe some of you went to both. But certainly have the courage to be free says to be free, to explore, to be who you are. Have that courage. You, more than most, are built to withstand this. As I say, you could go into the underworld and not blink. A lot of people would have a problem with that. But you are the inner Pluto. That is an incredibly powerful force. I hope that resonates for you, pile 2. I hope it was helpful and you enjoyed it. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Beyond that, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So Neptune is here. It's of the 3 potentially astrology or numerology cards, the only one that is a planet. So it very much confirms that Neptune is the strongest energy, the thing that you're embodying the most at the moment, and so forth. There's also energies here around other sort of systems or intergalactic energies to give me a bit of a sense about how Neptune is being embodied, and also mythology. So I was looking particularly to see with the mythology cards whether any came up that are associated with other planets. In this case, that didn't. So it is really saying that Neptune has drawn you to this reading, whether it was conscious in your pile choice or whether it was just as a result of the number that you chose. Neptune is the key thing we're looking at here. That tells me right out from the bat that you're likely to be embodying psychic ability, a very, very strong sort of sense of the numinous connection to other dimensions, all of those sort of things. And with mutable and water, you're very able to shift with the tides of the dimensions. You may sort of be able to travel between the worlds very easily, and very much connected to the heart and to the emotional side of things. Probably highly empathic. You probably read a room, read people incredibly well. The one thing, however, is with that mutable energy and also with water, which flows, and with Neptune, you may sometimes find it hard to sort of ground what you're trying to do and to be sure what is real. And it's sort of interesting because I think there's a little bit of a healing journey for you around that. It looks to me as though part of this life, whether it's already occurred or is going to occur, is about transitioning from feeling, very much caught within a system or something with the greys. The greys within the interdimensional races are kind of the foot soldiers of the draconians and all that sort of stuff. They're utilitarian, they're organised, they're intimidating, they theoretically have experiments on humans, all that kind of thing. It looks to me as though there has been maybe a force, or you are going to be dealing with a force of control, or do this because it's the greatest good for the greatest number or something, and you are needing to transition that because of the psychic energy that's coming in and heal from that in some way, because with the flower of life, you're meant to be inspiring, you're meant to be of the dreams, you're meant to be artistic, you're meant to be, as I say, psychic, spiritual, but there's something that you are healing, and Neptune, your inner Neptune is being emphasized to help you do that. That was more more stuck in the sort of rigid sort of space of life and so forth. And so Charon or Chiron here is helping you go through that transition. And you are very well placed. You'd know Charon really well, actually. Any of the creatures in the numinous you would know very well. But this is about healing, and you will probably heal others with it. But as I say, the thing, it's like you have to go on that journey yourself, because I feel like until that's the case, so you can get to the flower of life, which feels more material, that feels like it's seeding something into being, you are a little bit floating off with the pixies, and that's not to put you down. You're very, very connected to the other worlds, and that has its own challenges. So let's have a look how that plays out. Let's start with tarot, and let's ask how you're fulfilling your inner Neptune at this point in time. And it makes sense, Neptune and water, of course, too, because Neptune was the god of water. You probably are very at home in water. You may be a water sign or have a water sign strongly in your chart. But in any case, you go to the depths. But the depths in a sort of ephemeral, ethereal way. One of the other readings in this was about Pluto, and that's kind of going to Hades. You don't go to Hades, you go to sort of the depths of the ocean, you go to the depths of the heart, and also to the interdimensions. So let's see how this is playing out with tarot in your life at the moment. Okay, so there's Neptune again. You're definitely that archetype. You're definitely of the numinous. You're definitely of the psychic, the spiritual, the watery, the empathic, all of those sort of things. And you're very emotionally mature, definitely. But I don't know that you've worked out yet, as I say, how to ground it. With the Four of Pentacles, you've done some work towards this. You've got somewhere with it. But the Four of Pentacles is always kind of like grabbing onto what there is, sort of like, if I let go, if I try and do more, am I going to lose what I have? So you may, in fact, interestingly, for someone who is very Neptunian and very much of the spiritual, you might have quite a focus at the moment on the material. It could be because you should. It could be that, in fact, one of the things that's going to sort of help you really live your inner Neptune is to start to look at it as some form of business, as spiritual business and so forth. That could be the case. But you're a little bit out of sorts with it at the moment. You have a very different way of looking at the world. You think about the world very differently to other people, very differently. You can't really fit into this utilitarian sort of like, this is the logic of the world. In fact, you may be neurodiverse or something like that with this sort of energy. It's not lesser in any sense at all. It's just different. And you don't know how to fully express that at the moment, or how to turn it into something material. And you're not sure who gets you, like you feel like where do you find, your sort of like creative sort of companions or whatever. And you may sometimes try and fit in a bit too much for that reason, but you're very different. And I think it's a very positive thing, but I think that you kind of give yourself a hard time about it. If you start to understand that it's these depths, this sort of spiritual thing that gives you the different perspective, and that's what can release the material, you'll be better off. But at the moment, I just feel you feel a bit ungrounded, or to the degree that you feel grounded, you're holding on for dear life. So let's have a look and see how you could best fulfill the Neptunian energy. Then we're going to look at what you might deny in it as well, so you're aware of that. So firstly, how would you best fulfill the Neptunian archetype within you, pile 3? So it's very interesting that I sort of felt like referring to the other reading where there was Pluto and saying Pluto goes into Hades and you go into the water, because here we get the sort of sense of almost Plutonian energy around you. So you may have a Plutonian type of person around you, or you may find that a lot of what you find when you go into the sort of numinous has a lot of issues around emotional distress. I think some of you may have come from families that were a bit dysfunctional, or you could be in finding yourself drawn to emotional situations that are sort of hold you in bondage and don't realize what you want them to realize on some level. You seem like you can't commit to this stuff because you see it as bondage in some way. There's always sort of some debate. I do think that it's at the moment your Neptunian energy is making you feel so different to other people that you feel that you can't commit to those things, that you're always kind of at odds with others. You can't find the sort of emotional wherewithal you want. I think the irony is that you have the capacity to parlay with Pluto, so to speak. You really can, because you really do understand things. You're much more emotionally mature than you give yourself credit for. But I feel like at the moment that Neptune is a receiver. Like, you're a receiver of everything. You may actually get overwhelmed. You may be an empath who gets overwhelmed by energy coming in. That's a possibility as well too. And you just feel like you can't ground it, like you can't commit to anything, like everything seems ephemeral. It's almost like it's hard to fully accept that you're in this 3D material world at all, to be frank. You might have been forced to. Maybe the Greys kind of kidnapped you and made you be born here or something. But you are meant to sort of, bring in something new and inspire others. It's just at the moment you're feeling at odds. So I think it's important to understand Neptune's gifts and allow that, rather than feeling that its difference is a problem. So let's see what you're denying in Neptune, because I suspect you are denying a bit, to be honest, which is a shame, because it's actually a really lovely energy. But let's see what you're denying about your inner Neptune. Okay, so for a start, this is a bit like one of the other readings. You are really at the King of Cups. You are at Neptune, literally at that kind of level, but you aren't seeing yourself there yet with the Queen of Cups reversed. You do feel at the moment that to fit in with others and to kind of creatively fit in with others on some level, maybe a number of you do something creative, you have to suppress some of who you really are, and you can't shine as much. There's competition or something around. You tend to withdraw rather than to take your creative ideas forward, yet you're meant to inspire others. This is where the Neptunian energy is coming through, but you are denying that you should be on center stage in some way. It's kind of like, no, I'll hide away in my room. That's all good. It'll sort itself out. But in actual fact, you are meant to take out something creative, something new, the seed of life, the flower of life, that kind of energy. But you are really underestimating yourself at the moment, because I think you feel very different and you haven't worked out how that fits in this world. So you've kind of gone, well, I'll be very spiritual. And you are very spiritual, but you're meant to shine a light as well. Okay, so that's going to have come to some degree from other people around you. So the next part of this reading is actually looking at some of the archetypes and personal characteristics that you draw to you in others because of this inner Neptunian power. So it will sometimes have supports for you. It will sometimes have challenges. We'll just see what energy we get to see what this Neptunian spiritual depth is drawing towards you from the external world. King. Empath, friend. Okay. So you, I think, are an empath. I think you're drawing other empaths who are friends. So that's good. I feel that's nice. I think you are going to start to find the people, once you start to really own who you are, you're going to find the people who really are like you and that creative vision. So you're going to draw those people to you, others who understand this, others who get you, others who have all these downloads and so forth. So that's nice. King is interesting. I'm getting that some of you may draw powerful people to you who, once they realize your Neptunian spiritual gifts, want your spiritual advice on some level. I feel like there's a power energy around you, but it comes almost circuitously. Like with some of the other readings, it's like the people go straight into power. You don't do that. That's not what you're about. But I feel like you may draw people to you who are powerful, who understand that, you have this ability to see the future or to understand, read a room, all that kind of thing. I feel like some powerful people are going to come towards you as you become more seen in the world for what you can do. And I think that's probably okay. We'll have a look at what other energies come. I always feel that's a very positive King card. I always think it looks quite gentle, but we'll see what energy comes through. So let's see a little bit more around personal characteristics of people that you will draw to you. Europe, okay, and yellow. Solar plexus, cheerful, confident. So you're drawing confident people too. I actually think you'll come across some people who are a little bit further along on understanding their empath ability and so forth. So they're more confident in it. And I think they'll be friends and they'll help you. They'll sort of recognize what you can do and so forth and not be competing with you. I think that for those that this King energy is operating, it could be connected to Europe in some way. Like whether that's you're in Europe, whether they are in Europe, whether they've lived in Europe, whether you travel and meet them that way. But there's something about that. But I think it's going to be quite specific. It's not going to be everybody that relates to. But I think all of you are going to find your tribe. So that's nice. Let's see some other characteristics. Nurturer. Yeah. I do think it's a good energy. Water sign, other water signs, yeah, other empaths, definitely. Quiet time, and those who need quiet time. See, the thing about empaths is, real empaths, and you're a real empath, and so are some of these people who are going to be around you, you need quiet time. You do actually need to be the hermit sometimes because you are like a radio receiver for everything. So these people understand that. It's part of the reason why they're really good friends. They have the same sort of challenges. They understand that. Same sort of kind of like, I think there'll be a lot of compatibility between your charts and so forth. And there's a nurturing energy, but I feel like that's connected to this. Maybe some of you are going to marry into power or something. Or possibly, you know, were born into a family that is quite powerful in some way, and there is a nurturing energy around it. That's a possibility as well too. But I feel like there's power, but I feel like it's gentle, and I feel like you help it through your ability in some way. So whether that's happening yet in your life or not, I think it's something that you're going to draw in. Let's have a look at some very 3D things. Let's look at the impact of your inner Neptune on career and finance, and then we'll also look on the impact on love. The past. Unreliable. That, I think, is the energy at the moment because you can't ground what you're doing. So I think this is saying that's sort of moving into the past. Yes, change is coming, but don't deny it. Okay. So around your career, around grounding it, around dealing with that Four of Pentacles and so forth, and the Knight of Pentacles reversed, you may find it very hard to stay in a job, potentially. It's something like that. It might be hard for you to sort of settle and commit to something. There's some past energy around this that makes you feel like, no, I can't do it. I can't be in that world. But I do feel maybe this is why the king energy is coming in. It may not literally be a king. It might be a manager who finally gets you and understands you. Change energy is coming in, but you've got to allow it to come in, pile 3. You've got to sort of accept that you will find other people like you. And what is your difference is also your strength. It's not something to kind of feel you always have to hide away with. Let's have a look at love energy coming towards you because of your inner Neptune. Memories. Okay, maybe there's a past relationship coming in. Confusion. Yeah, because you're a radio receiver, remember, Neptune. So when you come across somebody that you connect with on that level, it might be some boundary issues you need to work out. And healing, but you're going to heal. So I would say there's a very nice, maybe that's this king energy. And that doesn't have to be about gender or preference or anything. It's just an energy. Maybe there's something, but there's something to heal from the past, I think. Some confusion from the past, but I also think this is suggesting that you will heal. Like there's energy coming through to heal, probably through these friends and people who understand you and get you. You're going to find your people if you haven't yet. Let's get you some spiritual advice to set you on the pathway to get to those people. Home. This came up for one of the others. An exciting change in home or lifestyle brings positive improvements and a new energy. So maybe some of you are going to move home, move where you live, travel overseas with Europe, whatever that might be, something like that. And being at home with yourself as well, becoming at home with this energy that you have. Because I feel you're a little bit, at this point in time, it's a very powerful and wonderful energy to have, but I think you're a little bit betwixt and between with it. So let's see what else we get. Emotional tapestry. Your emotions are a delicate tapestry that weaves growth, awareness, and wisdom into your life. This is getting to the flower of life. Understanding this emotional depth is actually your strength. It might have made you feel weak or different in some way, but it's actually your strength, and it's out of that you will inspire others and so forth. Let's see what spiritual gifts can help you. Life path 8, the financier. You see, you are meant to make money, and you are meant to maybe start a business, do something with this, work with power, work with money, all of those sort of things. You are meant to ground this energy. So it becomes then something that's a bit prophetic and able to bring things into being. So you can't just be in the other dimensions, pile 3. That will be cheating yourself. You actually have gifts to do this. It's just that it's different to the standard. Then we have telepathy. Oh yeah, what a surprise. The empath. As I say, you're a radio receiver. You really do pick up what's going on around you. Pay attention to that. You're not really, if you worry about whether this is real, which you could with the Neptune sort of energy, it's real. You do definitely pick this stuff up. And Master number 11, the visionary, ruling planet Uranus, the flower of life, inspiration. Once you really own this, you start to ground it and you create something in it and so forth, then, nothing can stop you. You are meant to be a visionary. That's what this is all about. Okay, so let's see what magical ability or power or approach might help you. Forgiveness, okay. So maybe there's things in the past you need to forgive. Maybe this is this Grey's energy where maybe you were kind of like, they tried to straitjacket you into a particular way of doing things. It might have been at school, like if you were neurodiverse and it wasn't accepted or understood, for instance, those sorts of things. Or in your family, if you sort of seemed to be always off with the pixies and they were all very much about the material world. There is some forgiveness energy that's going to help you. But I think it's also forgiving yourself for being different and actually starting to own how you use these things as gifts rather than always sort of picking at it as though it's something that's lacking in you. This is not something that's lacking in you. This is something that most people don't have. So it is a matter of actually understanding that. So to finish off, we're just going to ask your higher self for some spiritual soul advice for you in really owning and empowering yourself with your inner Neptune, pile 3. So we have the love of your dragon reaches out to you. I love when this card comes out because I love dragons. So there's a very protective energy around you, a good protective energy, not the sort of draconian stuff over there with the greys. This is what helps you going into those realms. I think you would have a dragon guide potentially. And to conform is to die inside. Be brave and be yourself. It's really interesting. There's been a kind of version of that sort of message, different cards, but a version of that sort of message so far in all of these. And I think it sort of goes with the nature of the reading because we're looking at what is the planetary archetype that really is empowering you and is really who you are. But I think it's very important here because I think you've underestimated yourself big time. So I hope this has been the right sort of cheerleading reading to help you, pile 3. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 4, to your reading. So the only planet that we have out of the astrology cards here is Saturn, which very much doubles down on Saturn being the key archetype and internal power source for you. But we did get a square energy, and I had in the intent of this reading that if I got a transit, that I would roll the astro dice to see a secondary planetary energy that is operating, so that we know it's not just Saturn, but it's Saturn operating in a very active way with a different planet. So I'm just going to roll that dice to see what that is. And it's Mercury. Okay. So we have the energy of Saturn, which is about structure, about form, about time, about karma, about things being built and, the sort of like the foundation and the fabric of life and the material world, operating within you with your sense of information, intelligence, communication. Bit of a trickster energy. It's an interesting pattern. It suggests that you could be the ghost in the machine, the trickster in the matrix, and it's very interesting given some of the other cards why that particular planet came up. It makes a lot of sense because Saturn is, of course, the oldest god. It was Kronos as well, the god before Zeus, all of those sorts of things, the leader before Zeus, and is about time and is about the patterns of karma and so forth. So there is a lot of power and knowledge and patience within you. But it is interesting that it's in square to Mercury, which is all about wanting to do things quickly. So part of your alchemy within is bringing things into structure that come in very quickly. And I think it might be why we have Scorpio here, because I think you can go to the depths. And we also have Persephone, which is a very scorpionic energy in my way of looking at it. The transformative energy, but also being able to go into the underworld, being able to deal with that which is deeper or darker and so forth. But as I say, it's almost like Mercury is the one that finds the way out to the light, and the speed and so forth as well. And it's interesting because you also have the macabre, which suggests the capacity to astral travel, the capacity to move between realms and so forth. There is definitely a sense of the energy of Mercury connected to that, and the energy of Saturn and Scorpio connected to Persephone. So there is something in your journey and in your strength about being able to go to the depths very quickly, understand it really quickly, and then communicate it, change it, shift it, bring action to it. And I think it's because you are here to deal with power and unfairness in some way. We have Alcime, or Alcmeme, I'm not sure how to pronounce this goddess's name, but she had a rather unfair life because she was betrothed to someone, and Zeus fancied her and decided he wanted her, and therefore pretended to be her betrothed so that he could have her. And then her actual betrothed was sort of testing her around that, and luckily she was saved, but then Zeus's wife didn't like it. So it's all around being very innocent in something, but being somehow subject to the powers of others. And we have the reptilians here, which are the intergalactic race, which is about control and about needing to deal with tyranny and so forth. So you've come in understanding the powers of the world, understanding when things are not fair, being able to look things in the face, and with an intelligence and a speed of movement to do something in that space. So I feel Saturn's power for you here is not to be rigid. It's not to take time. It is to bring wisdom and structure to something that transforms the unfairness of the world. And it's quick. You're quick with the way that you do it. You can communicate incredibly well. So there's some energy like that around you. So Saturn in you is not working in a difficult way. People often sort of get a bit worried about Saturn, but Saturn is very powerful and can really bring things into being and focus. And with Mercury's quicksilver energy connected with focus, you're probably brilliant, actually. So, and that's what's necessary to be able to do what you are here to do, and to really harness the power of Saturn, then given sort of like life and vivacity by Mercury. So let's see with tarot how this is playing out in your life at the moment. So this has a very iconoclastic energy to it. It's interesting because Saturn you would take as being almost the opposite, but this is about creating something new, something that is a new form of structure, form that stands on its own and in its own rights. You've sort of come in and looked at the sort of energy that isn't working materially, and which is full of conflict, to work out a way out of that, to give a shining light. This is the Mercury. It's interesting. I think people first experience actually the Mercury in you. They experience the great communicator. You're probably very witty, very, very quick in the way that you think and so forth, and you're very inspiring. And people sort of feel like, yeah, you know what you're talking about. You're not some innocent fool. You might come across, some of you may be comedians or something like that. You may come across like that. But people very quickly underneath see that there is a real form under this, and it's partly because you're your own person. Like nobody's going to be able to be tyrannical over you, not at least unless they literally had a gun to your head or something. And that's not going to happen with you. You are able to stand in your own truth, and people are very inspired by it. But I feel like it's like they first find you as sort of someone who's witty and clever and communicating about what needs to shift, what isn't working, what are petty battles, what you don't need to look at, what is the light on the hill we should be going to. And then they learn underneath, what gravitas you have. So it's like a kind of intellectual charisma that turns into gravitas. So you are already doing this, I think, in some way, in whatever it is that you're doing. And you are very much your own person. Like nobody, as I say, can rule over you. You really do know who you are. So let's have a look and see how you are fulfilling the energy of Saturn and to some degree Mercury. And then we're also going to look at what you might be denying in one or either of those as well. So firstly, how you're fulfilling it. Okay. Some of you may literally be in leadership roles. If so, I think that you are actually dismantling something to build a new sort of balanced sort of sense of vision and so forth. So if you are kind of like a CEO or a very high-powered sort of change consultant or something, you would come in and it would be to shift everything, shift the energy, change it, redirect it, rebalance it. So some of you may literally be doing that kind of work. Others of you may be in some form dealing with the powers of the world. I mean, the sort of energies that I get, as I say, with a comedian, is sort of someone like a George Carlin or something, where he kind of really head on, held the powers of the world accountable and so forth. Or, and I've mentioned Russell Brand before, but it's a similar sort of energy to that I see there. That there's a lot of gravitas behind it. The message is very serious, but it's delivered through Mercury's sort of brilliance. And it is to bring things into balance and to bring things into sort of more of a kind of community and sort of common vision view, rather than it's something that's not sustained. So in whatever way you're doing it, you can see that the power elements are not sustained. So you either are having a job to do that in some way, you have a role to do that, or you are holding a light up to this. You are showing what's underneath the surface, what's under the hood of the car, so to speak. Let's see how you might be denying the Saturnian and to some degree Mercurial energy within you. Okay. So what this is saying is that really you don't want to have to do this battle. Like, I think, there's almost a world weariness about the Saturn that I'm getting now. Like, I think you've been in these battles before, and you are kind of like the shock troops. You've been rolled out before in other lives and probably earlier in this life as well too. And you genuinely just want things to be balanced and for people to sort of share resources. You have this almost kind of, and it's not naive because you're not naive, but there's almost a sort of an innocence to it. Like you really would like to think, I think what you would like to think is that you could do it all with Mercury, because you really don't want to sort of be alone, and you don't want to upset people, and you don't want to bring all this messy, nasty stuff out. Like, it really, like, it's like you see it, but you don't want to see it. You'd much prefer that Mercury could sort of make things fun and light and get people to sort of just go, okay, enlightened self-interest. And, there is such a thing as enlightened self-interest. It's just that it's not very common. So I think that you would like that. You're much happier in the space of Mercury than in Saturn, but Saturn is part of your real strength and eventually your capacity to see what's really going on. And the fact that it is a losing proposition, both materially and also emotionally, you will need to look at that. But I think you will start off trying to just kind of, be very generous and hope for generosity returned. There's a pathway here where you have to come to terms with your Saturnian power, and as I say, your kind of Mercurial energy, it's sort of almost trying to dart around it and dance around it, but eventually you are going to have to come to terms with it. And what will normally bring us to terms with our inner power is other people. So what I want to look at now is some archetypes and personal characteristics of people that will be drawn in one way or the other to your inner Saturn and also inner Mercury in your case. So let's see some archetypal and personal energy. This could be people who are allies, friends, lovers. It could also be challengers, people who you uncover stuff about. So we'll just see what energy is coming up for you. Empath, okay. Shadow Queen. High Roller, okay. So two of these have come up in different readings. So they're different readings. It's not the same reading that they came up in. You will draw people to you who have an emotional attachment to what you're saying and who will understand you. Like, I actually think there's going to be at least one really good person around you, maybe a lover, a friend, could be anything, that really does get this. And I think it's going to help you see that your real power is Saturn. This is your talent. This is your power. Mercury is your talent. Saturn is your power. And I think will give you a great deal of emotional sustenance. And interestingly enough, it may be someone who is in this shadowy world of power. But I think in that case, they're kind of hidden because they're actually on the good side. They're on the side of the angel. So I don't feel like this card is operating as one of the powers that you have to deal with. I think it's actually that there is somebody who you will come across that is actually on the side of the angels, but appears at first maybe to not be that. They are either someone who takes a lot of risks, and so you'll sort of think they're part of this world, but in fact the risk is that they are hiding their true self, and you will be a really good connection for them. Or this could be a different energy entirely. It could be, people who have a lot of money and like to just play with money and don't think about the consequences of it. And, if you are kind of sort of in the entertainment industry or something like that, or around sort of like these sort of people who are very profligate with their money and so forth, it may be something that really triggers out the Saturn in you, because the Saturn in you would not be particularly impressed with that energy, I don't think. If it's someone taking a risk to do something behind the scenes, you'll be right with them. But if this is a different energy, I think that it's something that triggers an irritation in you where you can't just be mercurial anymore. Let's have a look at some other personal characteristics that you might encounter. Okay, Year of the Dragon and Aquarius. Okay, so some other astrological things. So the Year of the Dragon, it could be people born in those years are going to be important in some way. Maybe even this empath sort of like hidden ally type of energy could come from there. If it's not born in those years, the dragon is outspoken and energetic. They're very intelligent, can be a little bit egocentric, could be picking up some of that energy potentially. But Aquarius, interestingly, that could temper this. It's a bit like Mercury tempers your gravitas with this sort of lightness of touch. It may well be that there's someone who is a little bit, dragon-like and egocentric, but they have a bigger picture. This may be all this person, I think. A bigger picture perspective, so they can look at it philosophically, and they are more free-spirited. They're going to like your mercurial energy, but I think they're eventually going to see that there's a lot of strength in your Saturnian side. Okay, let's have a look at another deck to see what else we can get. Oops, that one wanted to come out, so we'll put it out there. So there could be things about diversity, difference, and so forth that you deal with. Communities, again, supporting them against sort of restrictive or unfair treatment. Confident. Yeah, there's confident people around you for sure. You're in an industry or around people who are confident. And problem solvers. That's good. Have those sort of people around, because I think there will be problems to solve. I do think you're very confident too. The mercurial, as I say, the mercurial side of you is the thing that people see first, and then they do realize how much depth there is under it as they get to know you. And it may be that, in problem solving with people, that's how that side comes out as well too. It's kind of like, I can't just joke about it or point a finger at it or write about it. I've actually got to get involved in the nitty gritty of restructuring and something that is new. Okay, so let's have a look at how it might play out in career and finance and also in love for you. Because there's an interesting energy, Saturn and Mercury, around those things, particularly around love. It could suggest a very karmic love and a very, very much a meeting of the minds one. But I won't get ahead of myself. Let's have a look at career and money energies around you because of your inner Saturn. Okay, so at the moment you may be feeling unfulfilled, particularly if it's all in the lightness of the touch and underneath, you've got a mission for new money. So look, there could be connections around there, just making sure that you're happy, like your Saturn is happy, that there is sort of some real basis to this. It's not too high risk. The rebel, you're a rebel. You want to shift everything. This could be connecting to this high roller as well too. I just feel with that though that it's got to be the right energy. And persistence, yeah, and that's the Saturn energy. So you want to shift things, you want to change things, I think, around the material world. You're unfulfilled at the moment in what you're doing. You might be heading towards something that's more fulfilled, but you're only really, I think, using the Mercury energy to its fullest extent at the moment. You need to kind of get involved in Saturn in some way, because that's your real powerhouse. That's what will really shift the dial. Let's have a look at relationship energy around you. Codependency, okay. Self-love reversed. Flirt reversed. Okay. I think that you may draw in people with this mercurial side that gets a bit codependent and so forth. It's because you're not fully loving what is within you. You're not really light about relationships, actually. You're not, with the flirt reverse, you're not sort of someone, this is a Saturn coming out. You might appear that way. You probably appear incredibly flirtatious, actually, but I suspect you're actually not. You really do want the right connection. you're serious about it. And it's partly because it's to try and find where you can heal some self-love. You've got some self-love healing to do, in actual fact. You may have been in a codependent relationship, or you may find yourself in it because you're not fully owning this Saturnian sense of, I want to find the one. I think you will find the one, but I think you've got to like kind of work through this energy. And part of owning that inner Saturn is working through that energy. Okay, let's see what spiritual advice we can give you. Guidance. Spirit guides and celestial beings work with you. Trust in the gift of guidance. So you are attuned. Like this Mercurial energy, I actually think Mercury, the god Mercury, is with you. Definitely, like channeling through you. That's part of it. But if you sort of feel the Saturnian energy, don't be afraid of it. It's actually a really positive energy. And it will help to ground the sort of electric thoughts that come through you. And we also have muse. You are a source of inspiration. Become the muse of your own life and breathe imagination into your soul. Yeah, there's something about entertainers here. There's something about artists here. For all that I think there's a very political or power-oriented cause that you will, particularly as you grow older, become more and more and more part of. You're also a very strong inspiration to others, and you draw from others. This is empath sort of energy. Don't be afraid of the muse energy that comes through. You will be able to ground it in a way a lot of other people can't. Muse energy can be tricky, but because of the Saturn, you could actually ground it. Okay, let's get some spiritual gifts that might help you, that you have, or focuses that you could take. Life Path 7, the Dreamer, ruling planet Neptune. So that's interesting. Neptune is the softer side of all of this. So getting into your dreams and into your sort of spiritual development and your spiritual understanding is part of what will help you to work out what to do with this. The electricity of Mercury and the kind of structure and patience of Saturn. Then we have Demonologist. Okay, all right. Now, whenever this card comes out, I really do want to say I don't think many, if any, and just a little noise coming up, which to me is always a sign that, yes, this is something important to say. I don't think that people coming here are going to be dealing with demons. And there is some sort of issue. Sometimes people think Saturn is Satan and all that kind of thing. That's not what's going on here. But I do think it's your capacity to look into the reptilian, into the dark, into the power things. So you are able to do this. You have the strength, the knowledge, the gravitas to do that sort of thing, to be in that sort of shadowy part of the world if necessary. And 33, master number 33, master teacher, again, ruling planet Neptune. Okay, so there's something very strong about Neptune for you as well. So we've got Saturn and Mercury, but underneath everything, Neptune, and I think this is connecting to the macabre, what you see in dreams, the inspiration that you have, your muse energy, the people who inspire you, it's all really important to you being able to truly manifest what this combination of, I think now it's Saturn, Mercury and Neptune. You're a very interesting sort of person, I have to say, the people who've come to this. Let's have a look at what magic energy you have that could help you. Sacred space. Okay, so I think that you need to find a sacred space for yourself because there's a lot of energy around you, a lot of downloads coming from Neptune, a lot of electric energy coming from Mercury, and then Saturn needing to sort of put it into structure. You need a space. Saturn needs the space. Saturn needs that kind of structure and foundation. Find yourself a sacred space, even if it's just, your bedroom and nobody else is allowed to come into it unless you invite them. Whatever it is, there's something. Find a sacred space. That will help you with all of this. Okay, so to finish off, I just want to use another deck to ask your higher self for a couple of last pieces of spiritual advice for you in really manifesting your empowered Saturn and Mercury, and to some degree also, I think, Neptune. Your deepest desires constrain you. Let them go to clear your mind. There could be something for some of you, so the codependent relationship, the sense of maybe not wanting to go into this to just be in the sort of fun, inspirational phase. You need to work out, what do you really want? What is your Saturn really wanting to manifest and to bring structure into? And a wonderful surprise is coming. Something entirely new awaits you. This could be a new love, could be a new inspiration, could be a new cause. But something's about to happen, and you'll probably feel it through Mercury's energy first. So Paul, you're an interesting group of people. I think, again, people that we need in this world. I don't feel worried about Saturn. I would suggest that Saturn works well in your chart if you think about aspects and so forth. So don't be worried about that. Look at it as a way to structure and ground and give gravitas to your message. And then you will have a very profound impact, not only on your own life, but on others, I think, and in a very positive and liberating way. So I hope that resonates. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.